Hello again. This is the state of the application. The last time we left off, we had the date and the clock was ticking every second. Exactly how we want it, right? For today's lesson, we will be covering event handlers. Event handlers are something that are encountered in most platforms. You think of mobile development, you're going to have event handlers. You think of web development, there will be event handlers. It's a common feature of everything with a user-facing element. At least that's how it is these days in programming. Now, uh, let's go back to our code, and this is the state of our code the last time we left it. It's very straightforward. There's not a lot going on. Our is pretty much encapsulated in these line to line 39, super small. In order to demonstrate click handlers, we will today create a button, and we're going to call this demo button. We don't really give a crap about appearances for now. We will deal with them later. And this is not about CSS, this is about React anyway, so we don't care for appearances. And voila, we have a demo button. Perfect. Now, what do we do about this demo button? Let's try adding a click handler to this. You add a click handler by doing something like this. There's a property called onClick, and this particular property expects a callback. The callback accepts one input, and then you can do whatever you want with the input. In this particular case, we are defining the function inline. We're defining the callback inline. And in order to see that this callback's really working, we're going to do, alert E. Let's see what's inside this event object. And we are here, we click it, it says object. This is not very useful. Let's try a function called json.stringify. This essentially converts your JSON into a string. This is useful in a few places, and I'm guessing this is one of those places where it's useful. It elaborates the object. Oops, we got to refresh. Oh man, this isn't working either. Let's try console logging it. And let's open up the developer tools, hit refresh. So far so good, no errors. When I click the demo button, we get something. We get a synthetic base event. There's a lot of properties over here. You can use this and do whatever you want with it. As far as this demo is concerned, we don't really care for the event. All we care about is implementing a click handler, and most importantly, all we care about is to demonstrate a couple of gotchas. Alert, click working. Now we're going to refresh it, click, and it says click working, which means our click handler is working. Now, we want to do something more interesting with this, right? So for the purposes of this example, we'll give this button a background color, right? And I don't think this has been covered in any of the videos yet. This is how you do inline styling in React.js. You give style a JSON object. So your argument will be encapsulated in these curly braces if you're not if your argument is not a string. And given that your argument is supposed to be an object, we add two new curly braces, and our object is represented between these curly braces. We're going to do background color. CSS properties usually carry over into React.js, but we have to remember that CSS properties tend to be hyphenated. So for instance, this tends to be background dash color in CSS, but this is React.js, so we camel case instead of hyphenation. This dot button background. Now, code did not work because we have not set a property called button background in our state. So we will fix that by setting a button background property. We'll call this green, refresh, and our button's green. Beautiful. Anytime this button is clicked, we want to change the color of the button, right? So here's how we do it. We go into our click handler and do this dot state, say uh, button background, this background question equal to green question mark red green. What this essentially does, if your button background is green in color, it changes it to red. And if it's already red, it changes it to green, right? And let's see this in action. Oops, it doesn't move from. Why isn't it moving back? Ah, I said green instead of green. This is not how I want it. I want it like this. Red, red, green. Beautiful. The button's working as expected. But you see, there's a problem here, right? We defined the entire function in line, and this usually makes very messy code. If you show code of this kind to other developers, they'll usually not be very happy with this is messy code. Furthermore, picture a situation where say you were sending an AJAX request to a remote server somewhere, and then you're dealing with the response that comes back. It's a lot of processing you're doing in the click handler, and you don't want all of that processing to be uh, coded in line. You want a little bit of separation. You want a little bit of organization in your code, right? So what you do is you take uh, a function like this and you declare a class method. So we call this button click handler. And we put our method in there. Beautiful. Let's try running the code now. Hey, come on. Ah, we have not passed the newly created method as the argument. So we do button click handler. Okay, beautiful. Now let's refresh. Beautiful. Click. Oh, there's an error. It says read property set state of undefined. And this is happening in line 29. So we go to line 29 and it says this dot set state, this is undefined. Why is it undefined? Now, this is one of the gotchas when it comes to passing in a method as an argument. Planning to use a method argument and you want to have access to this object, you have to bind it. This dot handler equal to this dot button click handler dot bind this. Now, this is a necessary step if you want to have access to this object in your callback. This should make your code work now. Click, changes to red, click, changes to green. Beautiful. Is there an alternative syntax? Yes, there is. You can use the arrow function, like so. We button click handler like so. And you can see that we commented out the binding line. And I think this should also work. Click, works, click, works. So we have options when it comes to ensuring that this object is available in the onClick handler. There is yet another method that suggests on its documentation, but along with the possibility of a third way of doing this, they also warn you that the third way is riddled with performance issues. We have work well enough. I don't see why we need to venture into a third method that has known performance issues, so I'm not going to bother. And as for this line number 17, the line that talks about binding, that's a slightly complicated topic. So if you want to learn about binding, I will add links to a couple of resources that you can consider using if you want to learn about binding. And I think binding is, I mean, going into the depth, the scope of this particular video series anyway. So, you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you in the next video.